Man, I really need to keep a pretty close eye on 8BitDo more often. 2 years ago, I reviewed their SM30 Pro controller, which became my favorite controller for traveling and even for playing turn-based games on my Switch and on PC. I still use it to this day. However, they recently brought in this new model onto the market, and I've had almost nothing but great things to say about it thus far. So with that said, introducing the best Nintendo Switch Pro controller out there, the 8BitDo Pro 2 controller. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Before we continue, don't forget that I have a Twitch channel that you can go ahead and follow me on for live microphone reviews and much more than that. But you're also going to find my Instagram and a link to the Tech Summit Discord in the description. So come join the community because it is a pretty cool one. We've also opened up a Patreon as of late where if you join, you'll be automatically entered to win one tech gadget every month in our exclusive giveaways. Details to that are going to be down below. Don't forget to check out the description for everything. Now let's get right into the video. Now let's begin with an unboxing. This controller comes in this very neat box, which once opened will reveal the plastic cover and then the controller itself, and you're going to find instructions and the USB-C cable for charging and for wired play. The exterior design consists of plastic, but this controller feels very nicely weighed. I got the matte black one because, I'll be honest, I have never really been a fan of the retro color schemes. I understand the appeal towards them for the nostalgia factor, but in my opinion, this is just the best looking one out of the bunch. And it's actually got a pretty similar design to the SM30 Pro, with a fully flat face to it and the thumbsticks being very close together, as well as being symmetrical, which I do prefer. Here you're going to find all the buttons that you're going to need in order to play on your Nintendo Switch and even more. On the back, there are going to be some paddles, 2 of them to be exact, which can be customized, and you got 4 settings to switch between thanks to the switch on the back. And then on the front, I actually forgot to mention this a little bit earlier, you're going to find the profile switcher in the center, and then also comes with a rechargeable battery that can be replaced very easily. I really like that. You've also got a very grippy texture around the back, similar to the Google Stadia controller in that regard. I like this design of this controller quite a bit, and I think that they did a great job with it. So when it comes to comfort, this controller does a lot of things right, but one thing in particular that I don't really enjoy, and let's actually start off with the great stuff. So the grip and the positioning of most of the buttons is honestly pretty great, and the back paddles are well placed too. I don't find myself having issues with the D-pad, the thumbsticks, or the fantastic glossy buttons, but I do have an issue with the positioning of the start and select button. I have small hands, and this controller feels a little bit longer than any other that I have tested before, so seeing as these 2 buttons are so close to each other yet so far away from the rest of the buttons, I tend to have to readjust my grip almost every time in order to reach them, which is kind of annoying to have to do. That's really the only thing that can spoil the experience somewhat at times, but in terms of comfort, they've nailed mostly every other department. I didn't realize this before, but you actually get 3 profiles for customization, 3 different profiles for each mode, such as your Switch mode, Windows mode, Android mode, and the other mode. Anyway, in the ultimate software from 8BitDo, you can actually customize the hell out of this controller. Like, you can remap each button on this controller to something else on it, and the back paddles support macros as well, which is awesome, especially for fighting games. And if you're going to be using this controller on PC, you can just customize these onto keyboard keys onto the back paddles for a better experience if you really want to. And the customization here is very much appreciated, and there is just so much to do with this software, but I will be leaving it there for now because you already get the image. It is just pretty good software. Now let's go ahead and talk about game performance. I tested out a whole bunch of different genres of games, but I won't really hold you for too long here. I'm just gonna go ahead and summarize my experience with each one. With a fighting game like Dragon Ball FighterZ, I had a pretty good time, and the macro buttons on the back came in handy here very quickly for triggering certain combos per se, and even using my ultimate ability by just pressing 1 button. So I very much appreciated having that functionality on the back. However, I found the layout to be a little bit awkward, and it's hard to explain why, but I think that it had to do with the shape of the controller. It just took some getting used to, but I can see this controller being really good for fighting games, and I've been getting more used to it with time as well. And now there were two genres in particular where this controller became immediately apparent to me as being one of the best ones for these genres. Both are going to be platformers, being in 2D and in 3D. So for a 3D platformer like Super Mario 64, I felt incredibly precise with the thumbsticks. I have never ever felt this confident going through very tiny corridors, just like really thin spots, because I felt like I had full control over Mario's movements. I never felt like I ended up going too much to one side or too much to the other. I felt very precise in my movements, such that simply were not offered by Nintendo's own Pro controller, which is honestly very impressive on 8BitDo's part. So I was very happy with it here, and the D-pad got a lot of shine, in particular when it comes to the 2D platformer, Dead Cells, where the performance felt impeccable. Again, it was incredibly precise and very comfortable. I absolutely loved playing both types of platformers with this controller, and in something like an arena fighter like Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, it was actually pretty good too, but nothing to really write home about. I just had a pretty good time when it came to the performance, but in Super Smash Bros, the thumbsticks gave me that same level of precision that I loved in other games. I want this to be my main controller for Super Smash Bros, hands down. And now lastly, something like Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, which is a turn-based game, I thought that the D-pad and the overall shape were fantastic here. No drifting, no issues, just a relaxing and precise experience, which I absolutely loved. I loved using this controller for just about every game that I played with it. Even the rumble on it, or the vibration motors I should say, are pretty good here. Though it's not really HD rumble, so it's not exactly the same, but I don't find myself missing HD rumble instead. And now this controller has pretty good battery life, and it sits at around 20 hours, which is actually greatly appreciated, and I don't find myself having to charge this really all that often. So the only thing that I don't like about this controller is the positioning of the plus and minus buttons, or in this case, the start and select buttons, but everything else about this controller is at least solid, which is a great compliment in my opinion. This controller was great in just about every genre that I tested with it, especially on the Switch, since that's what it was primarily designed for. However, I never really experienced any sort of drifting either, which is honestly a pretty strong relief. I didn't get that with the Pro controller from Nintendo either, but I've been getting that a lot with my Joy-Cons and sometimes other wireless alternatives. Now this controller is easily the better buy versus the Nintendo's own Pro controller in my opinion. However, you do miss out on some features like HD rumble, NFC readers, and a couple of other things that are almost exclusive to their Joy-Cons and the Pro controller. But I'm perfectly happy sacrificing all of these things in exchange for a much more solid gaming experience. So yes, I have nothing but the biggest recommendation for this controller regardless of what platform you're going to be playing on, and that even involves whatever game you mostly play. I think that you're going to have a great time with this, and you can customize it to your heart's content. I've got a lot of praise for it, so yeah, strongly recommended. And if you're interested in purchasing this controller, then I'll be making sure to leave affiliate links down to Amazon in the description. And there's also going to be Luster in case you're looking for other types of alternatives to like help you find other types of controllers, or maybe even see like how they compare against other ones. And not to mention that it's going to be a great tool for helping you find sales on a controller like this. So link to that down below. And there's also going to be ABUNDA, which is going to be a great service for financing this in case you would rather just pay for it bit by bit. Again, it's going to be super easy financing, no credit card of your own required, and I think you're going to have a pretty good time with it. I use it a lot personally, so links to that down below. If you use any of my links, and I do get a small commission that does support the channel quite a bit, so I would appreciate that quite a bit. And also, I would like to give all of our patrons a very special thanks, especially my tier 3 or $10 patrons, which in this case are going to be Omar, Saad, Alwazel, and Joe Moss. Thank you so much for all of your support, because it really does go a very long way. And if you would like to pledge, then do make sure to drop by on the Patreon link down below as well. It does come with quite a few benefits, which I'm going to touch on in this coming segment, with my thank you to the rest of the patrons, which are going to be the tier 2's $5 patrons. Let's move on to that. And this is super important. I would just like to give a very special thanks to all of our patrons, which are going to be listed right here on the screen. Again, a massive thanks to you all for supporting us to help us create the kind of content that we bring to you on a day-to-day basis. And thank you so much for supporting the Tech Summit podcast as well. And just remember that if you would like to be a part of this community too, and then do make sure to check out the links to our Patreon, where you don't only get bonus episodes of our podcast, but you also get automatically entered into one of our monthly giveaways of a tech product that we have reviewed that is of at least $50 in value or higher. So links to that down below. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter and on Twitch, because I do stream on there pretty often as well. But with that said, this has been Francisco from Tech Summit. Thank you for watching, and I will be seeing you all later. Enjoy.